He's very supportive of this new budget. And he even called it marvelous, which is a word you don't often hear when it comes to describing a budget.
I understand some people are amused that I have so many ideas, but I think the American people will prefer it to President Obama's grand total of 0.
President Obama and Republican frontrunner Mitt Romney both going on the attack this week against the other's plans for the budget. Back now with the panel. Byron, the president harshly attacked the Ryan budget, which, broadly speaking, Mitt Romney has supported. You heard it supported here by Republican Ron Johnson from the Senate Budget Committee. That looks like a real line in the sand in this race. What about that, and what about what the president specifically said about the Ryan budget?
Well, the first thing, it's an effort to completely redefine what the campaign is about, because from the very earliest planning of the Romney campaign, this 2008 campaign was about jobs. And the president wants to make it about something else. He wants to make it about Medicare. He wants to make it about how Mitt Romney is a rich guy who doesn't care about people. He wants to make it about anything he can make it other than jobs. And so this is part of the president's effort to redefine the race and tie Mitt Romney to Paul Ryan and the House Republicans. Now, that's not hard to do because in Wisconsin recently, Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan were walking around together the whole time. So the question is, what will happen with employment this summer? Will it tick back down at some point? And what will the president be allowed to redefine this race?
David?
Well, I think what we saw is the campaign potentially framed for both candidates. Mitt Romney made a very strong moral defense for Republican and conservative economic policies that you don't often see from Republicans because they're afraid of standing up for big business. And he said that the success of business is tied to people's wages and whether or not the government has the money to care for the poor. And what you saw from President Obama is something that could work for him and shouldn't be dismissed, which is that because you never know when bad luck is going to strike, and he used those terms in his speech, the government is here to provide security for you to protect you. And I think that these could be very interesting dueling visions in the sense that in campaigns we often see arguments about small things, but really these are about starkly different visions.
Steve, what about this? If the Ryan budget, the administration like to place the Ryan budget at the center of the campaign, and look, there's a reason that's reasonable to do. I mean, Romney has embraced it in broad terms, as we talked about earlier. And the president has made a number of claims about the Ryan budget. Paul Ryan has denounced them as false. Is it a good politics for the Republicans to be defending the Ryan budget, or is that a loser?
No, I think it is. I mean, I think there was a question. I mean, this has been an internal debate among Republicans for quite some time. Is this going to be a stewardship election, something that focuses on the president and his record on jobs? Or is it going to be about something bigger, about visions, about the future of the country? And I think, as Byron and David have pointed out, both campaigns seem to have settled on this debate being one about the big picture. And I think Republicans, look, embracing Paul Ryan's budget gives Republicans an opportunity to make it also about leadership and to say, we have done this. We have taken political chances. We've gotten very specific on a number of issues that the president has told us starting in February of 2009 would be at the center of the debate about the fiscal future of the country, and he hasn't given us leadership on that.
Yeah, I think that Romney's decision to embrace Paul Ryan in the way that he has is a really bold move, probably one of the boldest and surprisingly boldest things he's done. It helps him with his base. I think it helps him also repair his image as someone who's too cautious, doesn't really, isn't willing to do something bold. However, there are a lot of flaws in the Ryan plan that are going to be exploited by Democrats. For instance, it slashes domestic spending by a huge amount because it won't mention one single tax expenditure or loophole that it is willing to close in order to keep tax reform.
But Mar, you don't seriously doubt that the Republicans in the Ways and Means Committee in the House will meet whatever Ryan's number is.
They need to tell, yes, but if you're going to use it as a campaign platform, you need to say what it is.
You want to
get rid of the mortgage interest. Yes, eventually, if it's going to be enacted into law.
Well, even if it's going to be enacted.
Yes, but they're going to have to list that. And those things are things that Mitt Romney is going to have to defend. Do you want to get rid of the mortgage interest deduction? Do you want to get rid of charitable charitable deductions, whatever it is that they come
well,
up with.
the biggest one, I think, is
Or
healthcare.
the exclusion for employer-provided health
Right.
deductions. Look, the president has not done enough on entitlement reform, and I do think the debt is something people care about. On the other hand, Romney has left half of the page blank.
Byron, I've been covering this stuff for a long time, and campaigns against Republican plans allegedly to cut entitlement programs, Social Security in particular, although that's not that big an issue this time around, Medicare, Medicaid, and the rest, have always worked politically for the Democrats. Is this time different?
We have a word called meta-scare for
Right.
a reason.
I understand.
And I think that the Republicans should be very cautious about this, because to
Well,
sell...
if you're on record, and every
They're
Republican
there
in the House
already.
basically is, on supporting the Ryan budget, and you're the presidential candidate Mitt Romney, and you've done so, how are you going to get cautious from there?
They're there, but to sell this Ryan plan to the public, you have to convince people that Medicare is in dire, dire straits and that we are headed for disaster in the foreseeable future. Because what Mitt Romney is saying is that, and Paul Ryan are saying, that the president is going to ration your care. He is going to appoint this 15-member board in Washington, and they're going to ration your care. Now, the situation is so bad that something's got to be done, so we propose to let you ration yourself. You're going to be able to pick your health care plans. But either way, people will say, I don't think I like these plans unless I am convinced that disaster is around the corner.
And there's an emergency in effect.
And you can't really do that without the presidential bully pulpit. So it's going to be very difficult for a Republican presidential candidate, even with Paul Ryan and the House leadership on his side, to make that sale.
So you think this is likely to be a loser?
It's difficult.
I think the case can be made, but I think Republicans need the grassroots and a lot of the organizations to, in a sense, take to the streets the way they did in opposing the president's health care plan. And the one thing that I think has been missing, as much as conservatives say that the president's not dealing with the budget and where are plans to address entitlement reforms, is it has not yet, I think, filtered down really to the grassroots who are willing to say that for my children's Medicare, we need to make changes.
But I think we're in a different political environment now. People are much more aware of the debt and the magnitude of the problems that we have, and we've also seen an example. We saw in Marco Rubio in Florida, where these issues are the most potent for Democrats, fight off these challenges by being honest, by being forthright about the nature of the problems and the challenges that the country faces. I think that's a good campaign to take to the country, and it's a good thing to have if Republicans want to mandate if they happen to win.
Or do you think this ends up being a winner or a loser?
I think this guarantees that the debt is back on the table for the presidential campaign as an item for debate. It's not just jobs anymore. And if the economy continues to improve, Romney's going to have to hammer on this. I think in the end, if the president's smart, it could be a loser for Republicans.
Okay, panel, thanks very much. Coming up next, our Power Player of the Week.